Hi, I'm Samantha Rebrovich, and at the time of this recording, I'm currently based out of Salt Lake City. I am an oil painter, and this is the first episode of the Road to Freedom series, docuseries. I'm doing this docuseries because a friend suggested I do this, and I actually really like the idea of people getting to see a behind the scenes of what goes on in the creative process for me as an artist. Like, there's only so much I can type out on Instagram, and I try to tell as much of the story as I can through posts and reels on Instagram, but I don't really think it is a full perception of what really goes into the making of creating my art. And this is to do with my whole creative process as an artist. And I thought it would be a great idea to have this timestamp of me creating this and getting to look back on it one day. And I don't know where this could lead me. So I'm excited to see how I go through this series, or how I feel too. This is not scripted at all. I've never done anything like this before, and I thought it would be as real as possible. Raw, unfiltered. So this behind me is the first painting of the series, The Road to Freedom. There's going to be a total of 5 paintings. The first painting I created within this series is titled Blossoming Union. I finished it in August of 2023. And I got the vision for it in March of 2023. It was the very last day of March. I had just come back from a trip with my friends to Sedona, Arizona, and we were doing a ceremony out there, and you can read about that on my blog or on my Instagram. I came home and I was super sick. It wasn't COVID. I tested like 4 times, and I remember being up one night with a fever and I couldn't sleep, and I was fever dreaming. And I remember it was 3 a.m. and I was like getting bits and pieces of this vision of this woman, and she was crying, but they looked like waves coming down her eyes, and she had butterfly eyes, and she had all these flowers, and in her heart space was a knight. And it was just this beautiful depiction of union to me, like femininity and masculinity bridging together as is intended. And when I got this vision, I didn't know what it meant, but I knew I had to paint it. And I was in this transitional period within my art where I didn't know exactly what my next stage was going to look like, but I had an idea of where I was headed. I had just come out of an era of creating art for the last 2 to 3 years that was very much based in the spiritual. This is a time of my life that I really cherish, and it was a part of me for a long time, creating these visions that I would receive through meditation, bringing them to life. And a lot of the times were goddesses. And I was always very inspired by the world, and I love to travel, and I love different cultures, and getting to learn about different cultures through the art that I was creating was really exciting for me. And that is what has inspired me for a long time, is this blend of spiritualism and divine femininity, and painting women and the energy of divine femininity for the empowerment of those who receive my art. My goal for people was for them to see my art and see themselves as an equal to the beings I'm painting. Not to see it as something to be placed above themselves, but to recognize the godhood within. Because my belief is that everybody and everything in the universe is a part of each other and is connected, and we all carry the energy of source, the energy of the universe, whatever you want to call it, God, is within us all. Goddess, doesn't really matter. To me, we carry this energy of love and the source of the entire universe within everything. So I don't really see things as you are less than these figures. And when I received this vision for Blossoming Union, I was really excited because it was not a painting I've ever painted before. For one, there were flowers in it, and I hardly painted flowers up to this point, like never. It felt more headed towards an abstract realism versus kind of more the realism I'm used to painting, and I was really excited to experiment more surreally to convey my messages, and with color too. I love color. All of my art is super colorful. I don't really hold back because I feel like I'm a vibrant person, so my art's a reflection of it. But while I was painting Blossoming Union, I was trying to figure out what did it mean to me. I was trying to connect with it and understand what is the story being told here, because usually when I, in the past, paint something, there's a story. I know the narrative, I'm the narrator, and it usually signifies a time in my life, like symbolically, archetypally, that I'm going through when I'm painting these paintings. I'm like looking out at them right now, so if I keep looking off. And this painting though, I wasn't quite sure, other than the fact that I had fallen in love this year for the first time, and I was with my partner, and this was all about kind of us coming together, like, but also the merging of those energies within me, like me finally finding the balance between my femininity and my masculinity, the energies within me, because I finally had a partner who complemented my traits and balanced out those things in me. Besides that story of our love and this painting and this time of us coming together, meeting each other, coming together, dating, and merging our lives, I felt like there was more to the story, but I wasn't sure what it was about. Even after finishing this painting, I wasn't quite sure that I was gonna make a series out of it, but I had an Akashic Records session with my friend Sarah back in June, and if you don't know what that is, you should go check it out. Like, look it up online and check out Sarah. I'll like link her. And in this session, the Akashic Records were telling me the next step for me as an artist is to create a series. And funnily enough, I never thought about it before. Really never thought about creating a series, like cohesive, like as a concept, just didn't think about it. I didn't know what I would create as a series. But after creating all these amazing creations, I came to understand that, yeah, maybe next is to expand upon what I'm creating. So with Blossoming Union, I knew there was a story there, and I wanted to give it a beginning, a middle, and an end, because within the painting, that's where I was at the start of 2023. But there's a lot that led up to getting to this place of opening myself up to love. I believe that the journey I've been on the last few years, not only has it been a spiritual journey, but it's been a journey of self. It's been a journey of my emotions and really releasing them and expressing them without fear, but with vulnerability and the courage to share how I feel, and not letting other people's perceptions of me define me, but allowing myself to define who I am. You know, when it comes to spiritualism, I feel like everybody always thinks they know something about you that you're not quite seeing yet. And I often saw that with my friends, and sometimes they were right about things, but I'm at the point where I can reflect back now and see that there were certain things that did not resonate, that I let define me when it really had nothing to do with me. And which is easy to do in a trusted community, so I'm not too hard on myself for that. But now I can look back and reflect upon that and redefine those moments of selfhood. So this painting series is about me. It's about my journey of self. It's about my journey to freedom. My whole life, freedom has been my biggest goal, something I've always wanted as a concept, something I've always wanted to feel. Like I always knew this is something I need in my soul in order to enjoy this earthly reality, enjoy this experience of life. I felt like I knew who I was on a deep level, and I knew what I needed. Even if I wasn't always aware of that growing up, like who I was, I always just knew freedom, 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 freedom. That's what I wanted. And I had a lot of experiences growing up that led me to feeling trapped or feeling like my self-autonomy was taken away and that I wasn't allowed the experience of choosing my own course. And I often rebelled as a defense against anything that I felt was a threat to my own freedom. Even from like a very young age, I always wanted to be free. I'm a very independent person, and there's so many things I wanted to experience in the world around me, and I didn't really see, I don't think I see things the way I was taught to perceive them growing up. I definitely am the rule breaker, or the one who's going to set a new course within my family, you know? So I set out to create this series, and I started conceptualizing it, and I knew that there was going to be 5 paintings. I didn't think this would be a big thing to start out with, even though it is super, super vulnerable. It is a series that is the most vulnerable I've ever been in my artwork up to now in 2023. Looks like on the 10th of October of 2023, I decided to journal out this painting series. I said, what are themes or paths that I have lived through and am passionate about? Personally, for me, I've always been a person who learns through experience. I don't really learn in the normal way. Like, I'm not a step-by-step person. I have to see it in order to understand it. I'm a visual person, or I have to live through it in order to understand it. And I wasn't about to create anything that was outside of myself. In the past, I've created these beautiful artworks that were definitely, they were a part of me, but they were outside of me at the same time, if that makes sense. But this is something that I wanted to create a series based off my own experiences and the wisdoms I have received from living through certain events in my life. And I thought, if anything, that would be the most personal series I could begin with. So what are themes or paths that I have lived through and am passionate about? I am passionate about freedom, expression, nature, transformation, the feminine journey, finding who you are, empowerment, and the voice. Also love, always love. What is a story I have lived through that I can maybe break down into a series? This is my process, by the way. Journaling always helps me understand all the thoughts that are going on up in my head. I have lived through the story of suppression, disconnection, and transformed and healed, turning it into expression, love, trust, union with my multidimensional natures. And then I said pain to pleasure, ? So this is the part where I talk about my concepts for the paintings. First painting can be on the beginning, broken home, dead flowers, a cheerful person externally, but inside there's dark suppression of emotions, tears that won't fall, voices that attack. But now I'm gonna use that for the second painting. So maybe the second painting is the helpful support of people trying to help and uplift me. Healing by myself, then through community and tools like my art and spiritualism. Then a painting on breaking down, releasing the floodgates, feeling. Then blossoming unions, the fourth one, because even though I painted it first, healing isn't linear, and I didn't know this was going to be a series at the time. Then the final painting, shine. Strength, confidence, no one can take away the love, power, and voice that's been developed, authenticity. And then underneath I wrote the Road to Freedom series. And then I started drawing out the first two paintings. This notebook is my conceptual paintings notebook. It's where I draw all my ideas or my visions that eventually get turned into the paintings that you see. So this is the Road to Freedom one. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you can see. All my little notes, all my little themes, symbolisms. I don't typically like to go too detailed in drawings or make it really look that great because it's just a concept and I want to be able to change it if it's necessary and the freedom to be flexible. And then this is so far the concept for the second one. You can't really see it all that well. And I haven't drawn out the third, but as I drew this out, I started to understand more and more what this series was and how connected it was going to be to each painting in the series, that they were each a fragment of the bigger picture. After that, I got the canvas and I began to draw out this concept that I created for the first painting. So we start this series, we start this story with a person who has lived through certain experiences, traumas, whatever you want to name it. And this is their reactive state. This is how they have, this is their survival mode. These are the defenses that were created in this personality that I'm creating behind me to protect themselves from the world. So this is a feminine journey, obviously, because I like to paint from the female gaze, and this is what I relate to. The title of this painting is The Performance. So I knew the elements of what I wanted in this painting. I knew that I wanted a house. I wanted something to represent the past, something to represent where this instability within myself came from. And this might be really hard for some people to hear because they might feel attacked by what I'm about to say, but this is something I'm creating to reflect upon the past and my journey. This is how I see my journey, and I get to define that. And this is my art. And this is about me. So, yeah. But I wanted a house to be in this painting. I wanted it to be childhood. First, I was just gonna have the house somewhere in the background. I wasn't sure how it was gonna look. It was probably just gonna be like flat. And then I was playing around with this idea of like why I didn't like it. I didn't want it to be just a house. I don't really enjoy painting houses, but I thought if I was gonna do a house, it had to have some twist to it because that's the kind of artist I am. I always like to make things unique, which I'm sure every artist does in their own way too. But this is how I like to make things unique. So the house, I decided to do this spiral concept in order to create the feeling like it's chaotic. isn't any stability within this home. It is just chaotic. There's no sense of direction, no sense of right, wrong, up, down, left, right, center. It just feels like unstable. And for me, that's how it felt growing up. Not to say I don't love my mom or my sister. I just felt unstable in my house emotionally. This is about my emotions. This journey is an emotional one. So for me, on an emotional level, it felt unstable to live in my house every day. And I never knew what was gonna feel safe, except for my bedroom. Other than my bedroom, I usually didn't really feel safe in my home emotionally. The other symbol, of course, is this person who is performing, is putting on a face, you know, putting on that happy face that our society typically does these days. I feel like it's very difficult for people to feel safe to be emotional, raw, and authentic, because there's a lot out there that, you know, has either traumatized people to the point of being quiet, not having a voice, or there's just so many people on, especially social media. I feel like it's a difficult age to be vocal. How I would cope with this emotional instability within my life growing up as a teenager and an adolescent is to pretend I was happy, to pretend I was always bubbly, because if I was bubbly, no one would dislike me, no one could hurt me, and I would be able to protect myself on some level with not showing any weaknesses, which I perceive to be my emotions, not to be showing that I was different. I always felt growing up that I was different from everybody else I knew because of experiences I had as a child. I never felt like a normal kid after that point. I lost my father when I was 7 years old in a car accident. And after that point, I didn't feel normal because I had experienced the bubble of innocence had popped for me, and the things that I had experienced, the emotions that I had experienced at such a young age, I felt set me apart from kids I knew at that time, because I had lived through things that felt like it aged me on an emotional level, aged me out of my age bracket. So it was hard to relate to other children at that age. I'm lucky I had a lot of friends around me, but there was always this sense like no one knows what I'm going through, and that these are emotions I'm gonna live with for the rest of my life. Or at least that's how it felt at the time. I've had a whole journey with grief, and I can confidently say that I'm no longer a person who is grieving, just as my father would want. He would want me to be happy, safe, loved, loving myself, and I love him because love is timeless. It goes beyond space and time for me. And I still have a emotional relationship with my dad in my heart. So I don't really feel the weight of that loss as much as I used to growing up. So there were many moments growing up that I didn't know how to express that I was going through something that triggered me. And instead of, and you know, we're going through daily life, school, things like that. It's not really the place, at least it didn't feel like the place to have conversations about my sadness or my depression. And I never felt safe to be vulnerable with people because I didn't feel safe to be vulnerable at home. I had to be the strong one growing up, and I didn't feel safe to express my feelings to my mom about what I was going through, and my sister had a lot she was going through that needed a lot more help than me. So I dealt with things on my own. Now, I knew I wanted flowers to be a part of this series because Blossoming Union is about the blossoming of me and love and the next level for me. So I wanted there to be a beginning. Where did these flowers start blooming? How did we get here, you know? And I feel like we get there with the end, with death. So these flowers, I wanted them to be dying. And at first they were also going to be these static flowers behind this figure. It wasn't until I was like drawing out the dress on this person that I realized, why make it boring? I just had the idea, let's make it windy. I want to see the petals of these dying flowers blowing in the wind. This is over. You know, I feel like this painting is about a person who is trying to pretend to be normal, pretend to fit in, pretend to be happy when they're not. And at the same time, all around them are the signs of things they can't escape, like their trauma. Somebody who's not facing themselves, but is affected entirely by what has happened to them. So it's out of control. This painting is about losing control of this performance they're putting on. And you know, when you watch a performance at the end, they always throw flowers onto the stage, but these flowers are dead. There's no applause. There's no one who is probably believing this performance and facade. And at the same time, there's no ceremony. It's empty. You know, there's no congratulations about being able to fool other people, because the person you're fooling the most is yourself. And it really only hurts yourself the most to pretend. So since Blossoming Union is a very vibrant and colorful painting, I wanted the beginning to be a little more muted. So the color schemes, I still want to continue the theme of colors that are in that painting, because I want all the series to be playing off each other, each painting to be in a relationship with the other paintings, and I want them to all have a similar color scheme. Yet I wanted this painting to be a little bit different because it is not happy, but I want there still to be this color, a little bit of a vibrancy to it that depicts like the stage light, the spotlight is on their face, but it's gray. This is the back, like the base layer is what I call it. I always like to do either a underpainting of my work or a base layer, and then I'll draw on top of it. And for this one, I chose gray because I felt like this is where this person was. It's this gray zone. Not really black, not really white. They're just in the chaotic mix of it all. And I want this painting to be kind of darker, but also at the same time, like, because they're putting on this performance, there has to be this cheerful glow to it. Want it to have contrast. So I'm about to start painting this very soon, either after I record this or the following day. I'm very nervous and very excited because, like I said, I've never done anything like this. I want this to be completely different than anything I've ever painted before. And I want to try out new techniques and themes within my work. I want to try doing stuff I've just never tried. Like for the house, since it's so surreal and abstract, I might want to paint it more abstract. I might want to paint it less detailed. It's in the background. I want it to be background, you know? I don't want it to be the center focus of the painting. So I might not make it as detailed to portray that, even though it's not the center of the painting, because this is the person's, they're the center. It's also still on the mind. It's something you can't escape. This is in the shadow, right? This is the shadow that we can't let go of. and it follows us and we carry it with us every day. It took me like 2 to 3 days to draw out this concept, because it's a lot. Like when I'm doing drawings and stuff, I don't know how some artists are amazing and they can just draw it out right on the canvas, but I can't. I have to use a ruler. I want it to be precise measurements. I want it to be professional. So this person looks like they're having a conversation with somebody off screen, off the painting, but the person, there's 2 faces. One face is the performance, and the face behind the performance is how they really feel on the inside. Even though I'm trying out these new techniques, I'm nervous because, one, I'm always nervous when I start a new painting. I never know how it's gonna begin. I've done this so many times, yet I always feel nervous before I start a painting. And 2, I want to do new things with this painting, and I don't know exactly what that looks like quite yet. I tried to thought I'd try something new and paint a few of the colors, try to get some themes in here. Like if I want it to relate to the whole series, this might be some of the colors I use. Dead flower colors right here, and then these are going to be the grays and the skin tones, and maybe the spotlight color is this color, and these are also the wilting rose stems. Purple, because I just really like this color and I want to see if I can work it in somewhere, but maybe a little more muted. And then I thought I'd try out a new technique. So that's like a part of the garage, and I just wanted to see what it would look like if I used solvent and really made it less opaque. It kind of looks like watercolor, which I like. I like the idea that there's this movement. I want the painting to have movement. I want it to feel like a whirlwind, because when you're that person going through those things, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like your whole world is crashing down. It's dramatic. I want this to be dramatic. Conceptually, I'm also trying to think about like what I want to put in here. I haven't quite figured out like what's going to be on the edges, what's going to be in here. I might play around with some gold leafing. I like the idea that this person's enveloped in gold leaf. I think it would look really cool conceptually. But as I was painting or drawing out this painting, I always have aha moments of how it connects to either me, or now it's going to connect to this other part of the series. So as I was drawing it out, I was starting to understand what the other paintings were going to have more of, like what they would look like. Anyways, I'm about to start painting. I'm, like I said, super nervous. I'm very excited. I think this is going to be one of the coolest things I ever do up to this point. Like, this isn't something that I just don't know how to explain it, but like it feels like I'm starting something really big. And it's felt pretty big, and it's felt pretty, at first I was like, I don't know. Is this really interesting? Do I really want to paint this? I've never been interested in painting my trauma or painting dark or negative concepts. And I don't mean that in like a negative way. I mean that as I've never really been interested in painting the shadow. I've always been interested in painting uplifting things. In my perception at that time, what I thought was uplifting, I've always wanted to empower people and bring people a sense of vibrancy with life. But this is different. This is like, I guess, more authentic, because I'm not always in the light. I'm not always happy. I'm not, I have a lot of emotions, and I want it to be about how those are acceptable. Those are feelings, no matter what they are, they're always acceptable, and they are a part of what makes us human, and there shouldn't be any shame or guilt about how we feel. And it's all about accepting those things as a part of ourselves, so we're able to be embodied as a person, be centered, be balanced and stable, and be in control. You know, your emotions don't have to rule you once you have faced them. Yeah, that's it for episode 1. Stay tuned. I hope you will come along this journey with me. Bye.